Okay, we are live. ¿Qué tal, amigos? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with this evening's live stream, 7:35 p.m. It is on mainland Spain. The 22nd of July it is also, and I've said it once, I'll say it again, the month of July is flying by, as is the year 2025, the 22nd of July already, counting down the days to August. We are nearly there. Today we're going to look at some of the main stories that have caught my attention in the press. Not a lot of news happening, or at least interesting news that is, or what I consider to be interesting news. We'll take a look at some stories that broke today or are in the process of breaking today on Thursday, and we'll also take a look at some comments that have been left on the channel in recent times today too. And we'll get straight into the news in just a moment. We'll go into the chat section also, check out what is happening there among the viewers watching the live stream today. Always interesting to see what's bubbling away in the chat section. So if you are watching live this evening, say hello in that chat section there. Now, straight into the news, and the tourism season for the Costa del Sol doesn't seem to be going all that well, apparently, according to the numbers, as we can see here. Why is the Costa del Sol experiencing its first decline in tourism since the COVID-19 pandemic, is the question being asked. The Costa del Sol is experiencing its first fall in visitor numbers since the COVID-19 pandemic, with both domestic and international tourism declining. From January to May, bookings and overnight stays dropped across Malaga province, with July seeing an 11.7% drop in bookings compared to the same month last year. Spanish tourists, traditionally vital to the area, have fallen by 15.6%, now representing just 25% of total visitors. Several key international markets are also weakening, including Germany, France, the US, Sweden and Poland. Global geopolitical instability, such as conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza, US trade tensions and Spain's own political uncertainty, is contributing to reduced consumer confidence. Rising accommodation prices, combined with economic struggles of 1 in 3 Spanish households since 2019, are further discouraging travel. The tourism industry faces growing concern as forecasts predict the downturn will continue throughout the summer months. So the news is out. Tourism on the Costa del Sol declining in 2025. We can see the reasons there, but most worrying is domestic tourism, of course, which has fallen by 15.6%. Spaniards, for some of the reasons mentioned here, internal political uncertainty, and also the cost of living, which 1 in 3 households, as we saw there, are struggling at the moment in Spain, can't afford holidays. I think we saw that the other day also in the live broadcast on Sunday, that a lot of people are doing it tough and can't afford holidays at the moment. And of course, the Costa del Sol, which has traditionally been a popular destination for locals in Spain, suddenly not the case, and numbers falling. And also international decline. We saw the numbers there of European visitors that have fallen. US tourism has also fallen, but I didn't see the UK mentioned here. Only Germany, France, Sweden and Poland being the European countries where tourism is declining to the Costa del Sol. So British people still heading to that area, most likely making up the majority of the numbers there, which, as we know, it has been for a long time a very, very popular holiday destination for many people from the United Kingdom who are looking to tan or get a bit of sun on their bodies after the long British winters. Now we'll go straight into the second piece of news here. As we can see here, crime in Spain, public perception versus reality. Claims circulating on social media suggest that crime in Spain is rising sharply, with frequent posts warning of increased thefts, assaults and murders. This narrative has gained traction recently amid misinformation surrounding the Torre Pacheco attack. However, official crime statistics from Spain's Ministry of the Interior tell a different story. According to figures from the first quarter of 2025, total reported crimes have actually fallen fallen by 2.8% compared to the same period in 2024. Conventional crimes decreased by 3.2%, while cybercrime fell by 1.2%. Looking at long-term trends, crime rates have remained largely stable since 2010. The crime rate stood at 49.3 offences per 1,000 people in 2010 and 50.3 in 2024, showing little variation over 15 years. While public perception suggests a surge in criminal activity, official data consistently contradict these claims, highlighting a significant gap between social media discourse and reality. So the statistics there being released by Spain's Interior Ministry or Home Ministry, saying that crime in Spain has not changed, even though some people would like us to think that it has, that Spain is becoming a more dangerous country, but the figures don't back those claims up. We saw recently the Torre Pacheco issue, and of course that was highlighted on social media that there's a problem in Spain with certain types of crime, but again, according to the official statistics coming out of the Ministry of the Interior, it is not the case. Now I know people out there won't believe those statistics. They'll say that the government is making them up and the crime in Spain is getting worse, but having lived in Spain for the last 25 years, I do not perceive personally that crime is worse than it used to be. Maybe I'm not living in a high crime area, I don't know, but that is my perception, and I would love to hear people that are living in Spain, the perceptions that they have with regard to crime, because I know a lot of people that have been questioning Spain's criminality are not living in the country. They're just listening to what the foreign press or foreign social media pundits are saying on the matter. But the statistics are out. Let me know your opinion in the chat section or the comment section regarding crime, because I'd love to hear it. And the final piece of news, a short news story today, or stories today. The third one here, probably related to the first article that we saw, and it is that real wages in Spain have grown by just 2.76% over the past 3 decades, according to the OECD, marking the fourth weakest performance among its 38 member countries. Adjusted for inflation, average annual salaries in Spain rose from 32,157 euros in 1994, using 2024 euro values, to 33,044 euros in 2023. This growth rate is significantly below the OECD average of 30.8%, with Spanish wages growing 11 times slower than the international standard. Only Mexico, Japan and Italy performed worse, with real wages actually falling in Mexico and Japan and increasing by just 0.5% in Italy. In contrast, Germany and France saw rises of 24.1% and 28.4% respectively. Even Mediterranean neighbours Portugal and Greece outperformed Spain, while countries like Chile, Costa Rica and Colombia showed far stronger wage growth. Eastern European nations, particularly ex-Soviet republics, topped the list, recording increases exceeding 200% in several cases. So the reality of working in Spain on display for all to see there. Real wages have barely risen in 30 years, according to OECD data. And I can attest to that, because I know a lot of people, myself included, have not seen any wage growth over that time. Small increases, and of course we're being outperformed by neighbouring countries, Portugal and Greece, as far as an increase in wages is concerned. And as I said, a lot of people probably not able to holiday this year because of the stagnant wage growth. They just can't afford to do things that they used to be able to do, and it is a shame. But as we know, according to the government and Mr. Handsome Pedro Sanchez, España and its economy, or Spain and its economy, are going gangbusters at the moment, but the data is not backing it up as far as wages is concerned. Certain sectors maybe are going okay, but for the rest, not the case, and that is the official data, and people are doing it tough. Now we'll look at some comments that have been left on the channel in recent times. We'll look at this one here first from Marco. Why would environmentalists want more fires? I don't understand this comment. Stu, maybe you could clarify. Thanks, Marco. This was a comment that was left on the channel the other day by somebody. I think Kieran was the person's name. He said that maybe the fires in Extremadura and other fires that are ravaging Spain at the moment could be worse as a result of environmentalists. Now, I don't think environmentalists are causing fires, but the argument that some people have is that maybe environmental policies are not cleaning forests, for example. Maybe there's a lot of debris left on the ground. Maybe there's no burning off happening, which has been common in recent years because of environmental concerns. And I think that is the argument that is put forward, or at least that's what I believe. But as I said yesterday, I'm not an expert on the topic. No reports that environmentalists are behind the fires. I don't think. I know that in Badajoz, arson has been said to be what is the cause of those fires, a firebug in that part of Spain. And 24 fires, I think we saw the other day, have been lit by people in that part of Spain. And the government there, or the local government, is trying to work out who it is. Authorities are trying to find out who the arsonist or firebug is. But I think that's the argument that's put forward by people that criticize environmental policy when it comes to fires, and maybe removing things like fire breaks. I've got no idea, but I think that's the argument that's put forward. But again, maybe someone in the chat section is more enlightened than me on the topic. Another one here from Rosie Rose. Sanchez would say that, wouldn't he? Because he's desperate to stay in power. Fortunately, no one with a functioning brain is falling for such blatant gaslighting anymore, says Rosie. This obviously related to what Mr. Sanchez said yesterday. We know that Sanchez is currently in South America, I think, meeting with certain leaders down there. Not all leaders, because as we know, South America is a bit of a mix when it comes to political ideologies. We've got some extreme ideologies happening there on both sides of the political scale, and the country Argentina, I think, was mentioned because, as we have seen in recent times, Mr. Milei and Mr. Sanchez do not get along. Mr. Milei often visits Spain, invited by the party Vox, and of course that irritates Mr. Sanchez. So he's gone to South America to talk with friendly politicians, people that have the same ideology as him. But obviously Rosie Rose not happy with what Mr. Sanchez said, that democracy is under threat from extreme politicians and ideologies, and that was what was quoted in the news articles, in the articles that I showed yesterday, and Rosie Rose saying that it's gaslighting on behalf of Mr. Sanchez. Come to your own conclusions. Another one here from Clyde. Hola, I've recently read southern Spain will experience a 4-minute solar eclipse on August the 2nd. I'm hoping this bit of information provides as an interesting distraction from the glut of distressing news. Thanks, Clyde, for the comment. Somebody replied to the comment saying that no, there is no solar eclipse in August this year in Spain. I think the dates put forward by the person in reply to your comment, Clyde, was 2026 and 2027, if you're interested in the solar eclipse. So unfortunately, Clyde, for the time being, there's going to be no distractions from the glut of distressing news, as you put it there, unfortunately, and the solar eclipse will just have to wait. One from Eurostar. The right is a threat to democracy according to the left, and by democracy they mean only the left can be in power, nobody else. It's in a way similar to a dictatorship, except instead of one ruler, it's a rotation of rulers who are identical to each other. Thanks, Eurostar. Another person critical of Spain's left-wing political leadership. As we know, we have a left-wing coalition in Spain led by Pedro Sanchez and his coalition partner Sumar, which is a makeup of different political parties on the left side of the spectrum. pretty far left. If you ask any of the experts, of course, the Sumar political parties, and that's what is governing Spain at the moment. Sanchez would call himself a moderate. You can agree or disagree on that. Some people think that he is extreme, some people don't. So again, come to your own conclusions on that. But we can see here the comment, if I can find it here, from Eurostar. The right is a threat to democracy. I don't think the right is a threat to democracy. I think it's more the extreme right, which is what's being pushed as a narrative by the politicians in power, in Spain anyway. And we saw the result last year in the Spanish general elections, when Sanchez was able to convince people of that threat, and he subsequently came to power again for another 4 years, and he's still clinging on to power in Spain despite the opposition's resistance. And but let's be honest, they're a pretty weak opposition at the moment in Spain, is the Partido Popular. Thanks for the comment. Another one here from Gwyneth. My granddad worked in Brazil most of his adult life, and he had no trouble going from Portuguese into Spanish, but the other way around is a nightmare. Thanks, Gwyneth. This is a topic that popped up in recent times on the channel. The difficulties that Spanish speakers have to speak European Portuguese. When it comes to Brazilian Portuguese, apparently it's a little bit easier, at least that's what I have been told. But one of the big differences between Spanish and Portuguese, regardless of whether it's European or Brazilian Portuguese, is the number of sounds or vowel sounds that the Portuguese language has. You'll notice that when you read Portuguese, there's lots of little symbols on letters, whereas in Spain, you don't have as many, and Spain only has 5 vowel sounds, a, e, I, o, u, quite simple, whereas Portuguese has quite a lot more, and that's what makes it difficult. And also, given the fact that Portuguese people sometimes don't pronounce the end of words, they seem to drop letters off the end of words, it again complicates things quite a lot. And you'll see a lot of Spanish people here that struggle trying to put even a basic phrase together in Portuguese. They'll just come out and speak Spanish. The Portuguese people will understand them without any problems, but the other way around, doesn't happen. And I know this personally because I live with a Spanish speaker or 2 Spanish speakers, and they have trouble understanding what the locals say here. So that's the issue. Speaking of Spanish speakers, this comment here from Blanca Nieves, Snow White. I'll read it in Spanish and then translate it. Una cosita, listos. Sánchez no es primer ministro, es el presidente de España. Los ministros son los elegidos por el presidente, algunos con cartera y otros sin ella, pero España está regida por un presidente. Thanks for the comment, Blanca Nieves. The translation in English, just one thing, smart Alex. Mr. Sanchez isn't the Prime Minister. He's the President of Spain, and the ministers are elected by the President, some with a portfolio and others without. But Spain is controlled or presided over by a president. Thanks for the comment. Blanca Nieves is not happy that I used the word Prime Minister when I referred to Pedro Sanchez. And I'm going to explain this to Blanca because obviously she doesn't have much experience outside of Spain. And it is true that in Spain they call Mr. Sanchez el presidente del gobierno. El presidente del gobierno, the president of the government. They don't call him the president of the country, they call him the president of the government. So I'm just going to sum this up quite quickly, Blanca, for you. In English, when we talk about constitutional monarchies, let's say, for example, the UK, Australia, Canada, constitutional monarchies, the Netherlands maybe as well, other countries like that, that have a king as a head of state or a queen as a head of state, we call the politician in charge of running things the Prime Minister. Okay, when we talk about a republic, so whether it's the Republic of the United States, whether it's the Republic of Mexico, whether it's the Republic of Portugal, or the Republic of Italy, for example, we in English or at least I do, I suppose everyone else does as well that speaks English, refers to the head of state as a president, okay? And the second person in charge normally is a prime minister, like for example in France, for example, or in countries like Portugal, where they have a republic, but the president doesn't really have a lot of executive power. All of the power is in the hands of the prime minister. And here in Portugal, they also call that person, or the person is referred to, the primeiro ministro, which is the prime minister, okay? So the first minister, if you like. So that's the translation, and that's why Mr. Sanchez is referred to in the British press, or in the translations that I put on the screen here, as the Prime Minister of Spain, because as I said, in England, in English, we refer to this type of government led by a prime minister. In Ireland, I think the same thing happens as well, even though it's an Irish word that they use there. I can't pronounce the word, so don't ask me to do that. But in other constitutional monarchies, as I said, normally you have a prime minister and a head of state, being the monarch, the king or queen. And in the republics, you'll get the president and the prime minister, and I think that's the way it works. So in Spain, you take the Italian model, I think, because I think Ms. Meloni is also known as the president of the government of that country, even though it's a republic, but it's just the semantics, it's just the language, so don't get offended and start calling people smart Alex because we use the word prime minister. Blancanieves. Thank you very much for the comment. Now I'm going to go into the chat section in just a moment. Before I get there, I need to say thanks to people that have supported the channel in recent times, whether it's by buying me a coffee, whether it's the super thanks option on YouTube, longer term supporters on Patreon. Thank you very much for that support. Also the channel members of this YouTube channel, greatly appreciate the support. Everybody who has supported this channel in recent times or over the journey, thank you very much for that support. Also, I'm not putting any backdrop photos on the back here because I haven't got a green screen, so it's not that easy to do. But if you're in Spain currently and taking photos, Lada, for example, sent me some photos today, which will go up on the green screen as soon as I get one set up. But the email address, if you've got some photos to send my way, is spainspeaks@gmail.com, or any other information that you would like to send my way, spainspeaks@gmail.com is the address for you. I'm also going to put the like icon on the screen if you haven't hit it yet. We're currently sitting at 71 likes, so if you can be bothered, if you don't mind, hit the like button on the video. You'll find it just below. If you're watching on a computer, on television, you'll have to go into the settings, or on your phone, the like button, bing, and away we go. We'll see if we can get up to a decent tally today of likes. Now, I think that's just about it. We can go into the chat section and see what's bubbling away there. Let me see if I can open it up. There we go. Scroll up to the top. The first comment, or the first chat that I can see here, is from Waldemar. Hey Stuart, thanks for your hard work. I remember your 100th COVID update. Thanks for all the news you present, amigo. Thanks a lot for that, Waldemar. Amigo, as you say there, friend of the channel. And yes, those COVID times, we remember them either fondly or with or not back in the day. 100 COVID episodes would have been around, probably, when would that have been? Around 3 or 4 months into the COVID times that we lived. And Waldemar has been watching the channel since then. So thank you very much for that support, Waldemar, over the journey. Andrew, valued member with the little yellow star next to the name here in the chat. Good evening, Stuart and all. Hope you're having a good start to the week. 25 degrees in London southeast with sunshine and storms. So it looks as though the good weather is back in parts of the UK at least. Southeast London, 25 degrees there. Quite warm for that part of the world. Marcus, valued member, also in the chat here. Hopefully we're finally seeing the pivot from unlimited volume, minimum price tourism to lower volume, higher spend tourism. Same income, same number of jobs, just up market. Well, Marcus, as we know, I think there is a push on in Spain at the moment to transform the tourist model. It has been mentioned out loud by various politicians over the journey that they want a more value-added tourism, let's say, maybe less numbers or fewer tourists coming to the country and spending more money. I think that's what people are looking for, or some people in the sector. Spain's tourist numbers at the moment on track this year, I think. Maybe they're off track now, given the recent article that we just saw. But before the summer, we were on track to hit 100 million visitors in Spain, which will be up 6 million from 94 million last year, I think. And spending is also up. So is this the turning point, Marcus? Is this the change in the Spanish tourism model that we are currently living? I don't know. As I always say, and you guys know, I always say this, time will tell. But yeah, the worm might have turned. I don't know. Barbara's in the chat, coming in from the Playa Flamenca down there in the Valencian community. 30 degrees there. Tomorrow off to Murcia to see Lionel Richie. And then off to the UK for 3 weeks is Barbara. So Barbara, no doubt, will be doing a bit of a dancing on the ceiling tomorrow night in Murcia. Not the first retro act to hit Murcia this year. I think there was another concert with one of these more experienced acts, for lack of a better word, recently in Murcia. I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was someone along the lines of Lionel Richie, I think. And Murcia seems to be attracting this type of talent. Don't know why Lionel Richie would specifically go to Murcia. Is there some type of festival on down there? I don't know. But of course, back in the day, back in the 1980s, Lionel Richie did have a few hits. Younger people watching the channel, even though there's not a lot of young people that watch this channel, probably would never have heard of Lionel Richie. But believe me, back in the 1980s, he was a big thing. Hello, I remember, was one of his songs. Hello, is it me you're looking for? I think was the line. Don't quote me on that. James and Kathy in the chat. Have a coffee on us, Stu. Enjoy your holiday. Thanks for that. £1.99. Thanks for your support there, guys. Appreciated. James and Kathy with another comment here. Good evening, Stu and all, from James and Kathy in a cooler and showery Worcester. Still, the rain is good for the garden. Looking forward to Spain again in mid-September when it's quieter. I'm sure lots of people would prefer a trip to Spain when it is a little bit quieter, when some of those masses of tourists have vacated the resorts. That, as we know, in late July, the whole of August can be very, very, very busy. Good luck with the trip. Alla's in the chat too, coming in from the United States, Virginia Beach to be exact. 27 degrees Celsius there. Speaking of government scandals, big one brewing in the US. What's happening in the US, Al? I'm not up to speed on US politics, of course, but if Al says it's big, it must be big. We'll see. We will see. Another valued member, John, is in the chat here too, coming in from UK, stormy UK. So where John is stormy. I think Andrew said it was fine in southeast, but we've seen rain in Worcester, and wherever John is here, stormy UK. Stephen, also in the chat, on the Costa del Sol currently, enjoying himself there. Bit cooler today, 30 to 32 degrees on the coast. Just enjoyed a nice homemade chili, or chili, I should say, not chile. Chili, yummy. Cheers, Steve. Thanks, Steve, for that. Enjoying a nice curry. Janet's in the chat, valued member 2. Regular watcher of the videos is Janet, coming in from Oxford. Any update on the weather there, Janet? Raining where you are, let us know. Oscar coming in from the other side of the world here, Texas to be exact, 100 degrees Fahrenheit there. Hell has arrived. to put it bluntly. Hell has arrived in Texas, 100 degrees. I'm sure the rattlesnakes are enjoying the hot weather there. Oscar? Flutter Girl coming in from Toronto these days. No news is good news. That is true, Flutter Girl, that is true. We're coming into August in Spain, and that's traditionally a quiet month as far as news is concerned. Politics takes a break. Politicians take their holidays. They all head to their coastal destinations, and the rest of the population switches off from mainstream news as they enjoy their holidays. But we'll keep on looking at stories that break in the paper here, of course. There might be some, Stephen's back on the chat here. There might be something brewing over the month of August, but as I said, traditionally quite cold. Janet here saying maybe they need those British tourists then. Yes, seems to be the way, Janet, but as we saw, the British weren't mentioned in the text, so I imagine that the British are still flocking to that part of Spain, which has traditionally been a very popular place for your compatriots there from Britain. So I imagine they are still going to that part of the country. But other people are changing, as we saw. Mike's in the chat too, 28 degrees Celsius there, plus 28, because as we know, when we talk about Canada, sometimes we can see a minus in front of the temperature. But positive temperatures there, getting some great sleep in Alberta, the Vermilion. Charlie saying, let me see this one here. Charlie saying, first thoughts, too expensive. People have little money. I think, Charlie, that is one of the reasons people maybe are not as flush as they used to be, and deciding to holiday in places that are a little bit cheaper, because as we've seen on this channel in some of the news that has been put out, hotel prices in Spain have increased quite a lot since COVID, and people are probably looking at the prices and saying, well, 3 or 4 years ago, we paid a lot less for the same hotel. Why is it so expensive now? And people are maybe, as I said, saying, well, we'll go somewhere else where it's a bit cheaper. Billy coming in from Ireland. It's wet there. I wish I was in Spain, says Billy. Thanks, Billy, for the comment. Yep, I'm sure lots of people in rainy Ireland at the moment would be thinking of a holiday in the sun. And I'm sure lots of people have one planned. I know the Canary Islands, very popular with the Irish nowadays. Some of my Irish friends, their relatives, heading to that part of the country quite frequently. Renan is in the chat here, coming in from Los Angeles, as Renan usually does. Good to see you, Renan, in the chat. Makish is in the chat also, coming in from the UK. I think Makish resides. British people wouldn't miss their chance to have a fry-up on the beautiful Costa del Sol. Yes, Makish. We all know that a lot of establishments in that part of Spain and the other tourist resorts do cater to the British taste bud. I recently saw a very popular British food YouTuber called, what's his name? Rate My Takeaway, I think it is. A guy from the north of England. I think he's from Yorkshire or somewhere like that. Travelled to, I think it was Mallorca, maybe. And he's been to Benidorm in recent times as well. But always looks for those places. Like he has a big British, breakfast in the morning, or goes and has a kebab. Sticking to the theme of the channel. Not trying any of the local cuisine, I don't think, or at least not on camera. So I find that a bit strange that you come to a foreign country, yet you stick to your local cuisine. But each to their own, of course. Who's this? No friend of mine. Probably not as attractive with all the head, the walls, and North Africans coming in. Janet asking, head the walls. Good question, Janet. What does that mean exactly? What does that mean? Can we understand exactly what that comment meant? No, we can't. So we won't worry about it. We won't worry about it. What else? Andrea, Stu, how are you? Still waiting for you in Portugal. Spain is gone, so you know where you belong. Thanks, Andrea, but it's where I am at currently. John here saying that the government is to blame for keeping wages low so people can't afford things. Could be, John, could be. The government is to blame for keeping wages low, or at least the people that negotiate the wages, probably. Would that be the unions maybe in Spain? I don't know. Wage agreements? I don't know. You got to try and get more out of the companies, more out of the people that pay the wages, right? Iggy, hello from a sunny Jaén down there in the south of the country, where, as we know, has a relatively dry heat, hot weather, but dry, which is important. Sani's in the chat coming in from Basingstoke saying, good evening, everyone. Hope you all had a good weekend, I suppose that is. Back to rain in Basingstoke. So raining in Basingstoke, raining in other parts of the UK. But I think we saw London was sunny. Frank saying here, the media, whether traditional or social, always likes to sensationalize for the views. Absolutely, Frank. And that's simply because it's all to do with advertising revenue. It's as simple as that. So sensationalism has always existed when it comes to news, and bad news sells. It's as simple as that. So when there's a tragedy in the world, I see it here on the channel, or a tragedy in Spain, the number of viewers go up because people are interested in that. If I put something like, for example, everything's sunny and rosy on the Costa del Sol, nobody would be watching the video. So you go for the more negative spin, and there's plenty of negative spin in the press. It's what it's all about. And of course, all of the doomsday sayers on YouTube and other social media platforms get a lot of views, of course, because it's all about the sensationalism. They're all after the revenue of the click, as they say. What else? Al saying, I don't know if it's a tourism measure, but all the flights from the US to Spain are full. I'm having to buy tickets. Thanks for that, Al. So obviously US residents are coming to Spain, but maybe not to the Costa del Sol, as we saw. Gigi coming in from Surprise, Arizona. Temperature there is 42 degrees Celsius. Perfect weather for the pool. Thanks, Gigi. Enjoy the pool. Enjoy the pool. Bronny is in the chat too. South Wales, cloudy there. Surprised to hear the first story. Nerja seems to be as busy as ever. 3 weeks ago, as was the arrivals hall at Malaga Airport. Best wishes, Bronny. Well, the article, I didn't show it on the channel here, Bronny, but the article said that the Malaga Airport hasn't been affected by the downturn in accommodations, I think, or people visiting the Costa del Sol. The airport numbers are still up. It's mainly the people that are coming into other airports in Spain and not traveling to the Costa del Sol. I imagine that is the case. So, for example, people from, as we saw, the US, people maybe that can't get direct flights to the Costa del Sol, or just come into Spain through another airport and then not going to that part of the country. I think that's what it was about. Ian's in the chat here too from Menorca. My first experience is that crime has not increased. Mind you, it's pretty quiet in that respect here. Yeah, again, Ian, you know, we can only go on the official data, I suppose. I mean, I think that's all we can go on. I think, although some people I'm sure will say otherwise, but we'll see. Chris is saying they aren't allowed to spray anymore, so during wet weather there's a lot of undergrowth, then in summer it's dry and a tinderbox. So that's the point of view that I mentioned before, that perhaps there is some type of environmental policy that is creating more dangerous conditions. Again, I'm not an expert, I don't know. Rappers 57 here saying, did the Oz government stop burning off and fire breaks, causing a major fire problem? Again, that's what some people said, rappers. But again, I don't know because I don't live there. What else we got going on here? How hot is it in Seville today, says Chip. I don't know, Chip, but I'm sure that there's a weather app out there that will give you the exact temperature in the city of Sevilla. Heidi's in the chat here too. I'll just check the time. There we go. My husband's cousin has been working with the fire brigade and the forest, what's that? Guardia Forestal, the forester workers over the years up in the area of Ourense or Orense for the Castellano Spanish speakers. Phil saying, hi Stu, been here 23 years and haven't noticed an increase in crime in Almeria. A nice safe place to live. There we go. So the locals are speaking. No increase in crime. So backing up the government figures there. Charlie saying, funny idea of democracy where half of the voices are suppressed. Half of the voices are suppressed. Are they? Don't know. Heidi, he said, unfortunately they should be employed year-round to strum and clear undergrowth instead of just during the summer months. So that could be the issue as well. People are not employed to do that job. Don't know whether it's an environmental policy or just the lack of the moolah. Charlie's saying, how can the so-called extreme right be a threat to democracy when they are lobbying for people's votes? Don't know, Charlie. Talk to Mr. Sanchez about that because he's the one putting that idea forward and not myself. Joe's in the chat coming in from Lanzarote down there in the Canaries. Nice breeze and not too hot. Good to see, Joe. Good to see. What else? Charlie finds Portuguese easy to learn, but I speak Spanish and French. The vocab is similar to Spanish. The sounds are similar to French and Andalusian Spanish. There we go. Charlie has no problem with Portuguese. Makish saying the South American Spanish accents are quite similar to what you say about Brazilian Portuguese. When I was learning, I found it much more easy to follow. Is there something in that? Don't know, Makish. I don't know. Some people have said that, yes, it is easier to learn the South American variety of Spanish, maybe because of the sounds. Maybe the th sound doesn't influence. But as I've always said, we have exactly the same sound in English when we say the word think, for example, is exactly the same as the Spanish sound in the word cinco. Think, cinco. I think, I am, tengo $5. Exactly the same. So I don't know why there would be such a difficulty to learn mainland Spanish here in Spain. Don't know. Gwyneth saying the head of the government in Ireland is pronounced Taoiseach. Interesting. If it was only spelt that way, Gwyneth, the spelling, I think, is what catches a lot of people out. If you haven't learnt the Irish language or whatever it is, Gaelic, whatever it is, it's the spelling of those words which cause a bit of a problem for a lot of people. Pronunciation not so hard when you phoneticize it like Taoiseach, but the pronunciation is a bit different. What else we got going on here? Let's have a look. Why are all the crowns in the chat? I think I mentioned this the other day, Janet. It's for top fans, I think is what it's called. It's a new initiative that YouTube has put forward. Top fans, I think it is. Roland saying he's made it to the Costa del Sol and will not go back to the IS. Is that the US, Roland? I imagine that it is. Won't go back to the US after making it to the Costa del Sol. Timbo says that Brazilian Portuguese is much more similar to the Spanish pronunciation than Portuguese from Portugal, though with clear alternative irregular verbs. There we go. Thanks for that. Timbo speaking both. Dave's in the chat, former Madrid resident, currently Florida resident. Dave is in the chat. Warm and humid where he is there in Florida. Thanks for another update on things in Spain. Thanks, Dave, for watching this evening. When are you coming back to Spain? When are you back? Soon or next year? Stephen, I can't understand why there's a problem, Stuart. Cost of living is getting more expensive. Quite a few people here in my area, though, mainly Spanish. Yep. Don't know, Stephen. It was just the, I'll just clear my throat, the article that was published that we saw before, 15% down Spanish visitors on last year to that part of the country. Minnesota is where Roland is from originally, in the US, of course. Joe, congratulations on 95,000 subscribers. Thanks, Joe. Probably hit the 100,000 this year if the trend continues. I'm just going to clear my throat if I can. There we go. Back again. Should be okay for a couple more minutes. Alan's saying that he lives on the Costa del Sol and prices there are rising. Just back from a weekend in a small town outside Jerez in Cádiz, and a 2-course dinner with 4 drinks was 25 euros each. On the coast, it's double. And there we go. That's probably one of the issues, right, Alan? The prices down there, which have been going through the roof, pricing the locals out, no doubt. Don, also on the Costa del Sol. They're building. Sadly, they're not improving the access to the A7, so the traffic jams are getting worse. Thanks, Don. I will say that when I was traveling the other day, I can't remember where it was, but in my car, for whatever reason, the radio is programmed so that whenever there's a traffic update, it sort of comes on automatically, no matter what I'm listening to. And 2 or 3 times last week, I was traveling and the news came on, and there always seemed to be a traffic jam on the Costa del Sol. So I don't know whether the traffic down there is getting worse or not. I don't know. Alex is in the chat from Estepona. Thanks for that, Alex, good to see you. Enjoying the cooler weather? Yes, we are, Dave. Able to sleep at night, which is very, very good. Rafael saying, hola, ¿se puede hablar en castellano? Por supuesto, Rafael. Puedes hablar en castellano, puedes hablar en inglés, puedes hablar en el idioma que usted quiera aquí en este canal. Español, mexicano, colombiano. Es broma, ¿eh? No hay problema. What else we got going on here? John prefers the late spring for a Spanish holiday. It's quieter and less hot. Sure people would agree with you there, John, when the weather's not too hot. Absolutely. Steve-O's saying they aren't going to Turkey as it's as expensive as London. Effin' robbery, says Steve-O. Turkey getting expensive, is it? Janet saying a bit of rain in Oxford, a lot the other day, really needed. Spanish family exploring the north of England. Yesterday, Hadrian's Wall and Vindolanda Roman Museum. Today, the East Coast and Durham. Is Hadrian's Wall where the tree was chopped down last year by a couple of, well, for lack of a better word, clowns? Makish, yep, from the UK. Thanks, Makish. Thought that was the case. We've got a super chat from NVN194, €2. So a coffee on NVM tomorrow. I have a couple of coffees, one from James and Kathy, one from NVN. Thanks for that. Appreciated. Andrew's saying that looked online at some more upmarket hotels in Benidorm for a superior room with a sea view and B&B, and prices were between €220 and €350 per night. That is expensive. I think, for Benidorm. I think it is. Antonio, please hit the like. Thanks for that, Antonio. We're currently at 152 likes here. So if you have not hit the like icon yet, please do so. I'll say it in Spanish in case there's some Spanish people watching. Dale, el botón like, por favor. What else? James saying Ozzy Osbourne has died. That's a tragedy if Ozzy has died. I'm not sure how old Ozzy was, but as we know, Ozzy has lived a very intense life. So if he has died, sad news, sad news. Ian coming in here again. As an Englishman in Spain and an immigrant, does that make me more likely to be a criminal? The gutter press never seems to mention that. Do they have particular people in mind? Well, we know the answer to that question. Ian, we know the answer to that question. We won't bring it up again. We won't bring it up again. Around 31 degrees there in Menorca. And a breeze felt pleasant after the heat of the past few days. Thanks for that. Janet also saying sad news about Ozzy. If that is the case, we take James's word for it. I'm sure it will make the press in Spain if it hasn't done so already tomorrow. I'm not sure how big of a figure Ozzy Osbourne is in Spain, considering that his music was quite popular back in the 1970s, I think, and I don't know whether the Osbournes was a popular show on television here or not. I'm sure the fanatics of hard rock would know who he is, but obviously not as popular as in the US, Australia, and his homeland, the United Kingdom, of course. Flopsy, everyone is going east to get a break from the wacky Western world. There we go. People are heading east. And Janet saying, yes, Hadrian's Wall, where the tree got chopped down. My daughter and grandson gave the remains of the tree in the museum a hug. Yeah, I think the people that chopped down that tree were, the other day, sent to prison, if I'm not mistaken, for a couple of years because for whatever reason, they decided it would be a good idea to chop down such a historic tree. The mind boggles. And James saying Ozzy was 76 years of age. So, yeah. And as I said, he obviously led a full life, did Ozzy Osbourne. On that note, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been a pleasure as always. I'll be back again on Thursday with another live stream. Hope to see you guys then. Thanks for your participation in the chat. Thanks for the people that have supported the channel this evening. A couple of people that have supported the channel. Appreciate it. And again, sad news about Ozzy Osbourne. See you in the next live stream on Thursday. Hasta entonces, adios and bye-bye.